I got this, the Jazza Pro Artist series, featuring high-quality Illustrator products by Spectrum Noir. The only problem is, I don't draw. But I do sculpt, and I love this. Before we make a zombie dragon, we want to get our products straight. So I'm doing a little test run of the clay here. This is the Primo, and this is the Cos clay, which was a bit of a dud. It tended to fade over time. I also tried the Ultralight Sculpey, but unfortunately, I didn't like playing with that stuff, so we put that to the side. Let's get started, and we'll be using the Primo. Once again, we're off to the start with our armature. And you don't need to see that, so let's just cut to the chase. Here he is, the bare bones of our zombie skeleton. Now grab that Primo clay and that Sculpey Bacon Bond and start smothering him. You need to do this so that we can apply the Primo. Once his body's done, come in again and start patting him out with all the muscles. When you're happy with the general shape, you can come in with your silicone tip tool or your fingers and start smoothing out the details. And unfortunately, I made an oopsie-doo here, so whoop, let's get him back to the naked state.
Hey, phrasing!
There, we'll just do the legs. Okay, now I'm coming back in with my tip tool and just pushing out some muscles, doing the little nails, and starting to sculpt in some of the, well, I don't know, what would you call them? Eaten areas? He's a zombie after all, so we'll just pretend another dragon took a chunk out of his behind. I'm just using general sculpting tools here, which you can find affiliate links for down below in the description. Once that's done, I come in with a ballpoint tool or my silicone tip tool and start to smooth it out. You'll want to keep in mind we're going to be using markers, so keep it smooth. Now for the first bake. This is so we don't squash the legs later. Okay, onto the tail. Once again, hacking out the pieces. I gotta keep in mind that this part will have the back spine down it, so I'm doing a little bit of a chunk here and there, nice and evenly, so we can fit those spikes in. I also decided to take a chunk out of the tummy. I know you're not gonna see it, but I couldn't help myself. I needed to show a tiny little bit of rib detail. We've got the spines here, and once they're in place, you'll want to chuck it in the oven again because once again, don't want to squish. And this step is assembling the head. Now, this is pretty important because Jazza designed this awesome zombie dragon with the help of his viewers, and I didn't really want to let him down, so I spent a lot of time on this. Just trying to get it to match that picture perfectly. Well, at least prismatic brush perfectly. And I've also got to keep in mind once again that the markers are going to be able to get in there and colour it in. So once the teeth are in, and I'm pretty happy with how he's looking, we can move on to trying to fit it to the body. And the horns, don't forget those. They're a very signature part of the drawing too. I think he turned out pretty good. Okay, back onto the neck now. We're gonna replicate what we did in the tail. Hackety hack hack. And cut out some parts that match the image from Jazza on the face as well. Ever so gently. Back in the oven. Alright, once that's all done, we're going to do the wings. So I want to add some extra ligament areas here. So I've just come back in with my wire. This is just to give extra support when I add the clay. And I decided to go the whole stereotypical zombie wings where it's just like little bits of meat sticking to the bone. And in for a final bake. Now, I'm pretty happy with how he's come out. Looks relatively easy to colour in with these amazing Illustrator marker pens. Now these are alcohol ink markers. I have never used them before on clay. I have used alcohol inks though, so hopefully they work similar. I'm also going to use the Pro Series Illustrator Collection little box here with the fine liners In particular, I like this brush tip one. I've never seen anything like it and super keen to get into that. I've also got, as a backup, my trusty paintbrushes, because these I'm familiar with and I know I might have a bit of trouble in the cracks. So I've got some alcohol here just so that I can blend in what I use from the markers into the sculpture. I've also got these beautiful color blend pencils here. And to be honest, I'm not going to bust out the secrets I'm doing with that just yet. That's for later. Alright, let's get started. I'm going to begin with the reds for this one. I'm really keen to get into those bloody gory details, and it seemed like a pretty easy place to start with a marker pen. Now, thank goodness I smoothed out these areas before with the ballpoint tool, because that really allowed these markers to get in there nicely. And what is even more surprising is how shiny they finish up on the polymer clay. So that made it look really nice and juicy. Alright, so let's just keep on colouring. So I'm filling in a few of these and voila, I've gone and done them all. Next I'm going to start with the bone details, particularly the spikes on the back of the dragon. So I started off covering the entire spike with a lighter shade and then came in and added a few little details with a darker tan. And why not do the teeth while we're at it? So when you're fairly happy with what you've achieved with the marker pens, you can cheat with this blender pen, which I think is the most coolest thing in the world. So I've come in and I've taken off any of the excess alcohol ink that had stuck to the bone. And when you're happy with all of that, we can move on to the next phase. So I'm going to focus on the wings. I don't want to touch them, so I might as well get them out the way. Here we're going to use the purples. Now I just colour in the entire thing with the lighter shade. And then we come in with a darker purple. Now I'm going to try and make it look like stringy bits of meat, but in a purpley fashion, if that makes any sense. So I'm just going for a line-ish effect here. And then you can use your brush pen and your alcohol ink to get into those tiny little areas where the marker pen isn't going to fit. Now I didn't add any extra ink for these, I just purely used the marker pen ink to spread it around. Now Jazza fortunately didn't include any zombie greens in the box, but fluoro green is my favourite too, so we're going to smash in with some of that. I start off using the mid-tone green on the body, then I came in with a darker shade and started to do the shadowed areas. And when all that looked a bit too vibrant, I decided to pull out the yellow and use it as a way to sort of wash it out a bit and add those highlights that it very much needed. And oh, it works so beautifully. Green's actually my favourite colour, if you didn't know. And that's only if I can't say the rainbow is my favourite colour, because I know a lot of people get a bit upset when I say that. Okay, now on to the toenails. I'm going to use the darker grey shades. Started with a darker tone this time and then worked my way into the darker tone with the lighter shades. Adding the medium in between and then going back over with the lighter grey again. And I did the same technique on the horns. I wanted them to pop a little bit, so I used a different colour to the bones down the back. And then I did this really cool sort of striping line effect, which I thought worked really well on the horns. And once again, pop out that blender. We're going to do the coolest thing that I think on this entire sculpture. And we're going to make little muscular things pop out of those bloody areas so they don't look so damn boring. Okay, now for that super secret thing that I had going with these color blend pencils, which I admit worked really well, but once again, I don't draw, guys, so this is a first. I really hope you like what I do with these. Want more? Well, I have an awesome tutorial on ink markers and how to use them on clay over on my Patreon, which these guys can vouch for. Be sure to check out Jazza. He's an amazing bloke. And if beards aren't your thing, be sure to check out these wicked videos that I've already done. But I know for a fact you do like beards.